What's up, everybody? It's your boy Showtimedr. So, for all the heroes that I have not yet acquired in the game, I'm going to be using the wiki to show you guys the skills and go through everything. But this is going to be your Elwin guide in Langrisser mobile. So we're going to go over all his skills, what he's capable of, enchants, gear, the different class builds, etc. I put it in the upper right because there's no easy way to show you guys outside the game. Before we get into Elwin, though, we're going to look at which groups he's a member of. So he's in the Protagonist group. He's also in Legion of Glory. You can see some of the notable characters here. And then there was some type of thing with this website yesterday. One of the people that manages the website was going over it, but apparently someone that they paid to program, some type of drama happened, so that guy messed with the website. So he's actually an Emperor's Honor too, Elwin is. But it's just not up for whatever reason. But the notable faction, though, is Legion of Glory, because he does have a faction buff for that. So here are some of the characters. Almeida, decent healer. Sherry, really good flyer. Chris, really good combat healer. Aaron, surprisingly underrated. Kind of, what would you call it, like infantry style. Grenier, everyone should know Grenier. Ian, good nuker. Jessica, good nuker. Leiden, super good. Lester, underrated. Liana, top tier healer. Narm, good archer, etc. So if you got most of those most of those heroes, and you manage to get an Elwin, you got a good faction buff going. So let's get into them here. So now Elwin is an infantry unit, so keep in mind, weak against cavalry, strong against lancers. Now his passive here, when you first get him, it's going to say Brave Will, initiating combat, chance to increase, damage increase by 10%. After battle, 40% chance to recover HP by 30%. Then eventually, as you get him higher and higher, his 6-star, initiating combat is 30% extra damage, which is actually going to be really important, because then you will have a 100% damage or chance to recover HP by 30% of the damage dealt. So damage, clearly important. If you can crit with them as well, you're going to have a good chance to recover even more HP. The HP recovered, it always stays at 30%, so always keep that in mind no matter how much you upgrade them. Now, the way that the class tree, well, you can actually see it in the upper right corner, but the way that this website is sorted, which I wish it would change, but I'm not the website maker, so I got no right to say that. So the class I'm going to be talking about, it's this one. Then it's going to skip to this one, because that's his horse class right there. Then it actually skips down here. So we're going to go into that. This is the recommended build for Elwin. So when you start out, you're going to be at this build. Oops, I didn't mean to click that. Go back. So you're going to be at... This is called Fighter. So you're going to be a Fighter. A website apparently wants to reload. Soldiers, his soldiers basically have 0 skills, so they're just your typical infantry fodder. Now, the actual class skills you're going to pick up from this, though, going to be Sun Slash, which is attacks a single enemy, dealing damage 1.5 times. After battle, restores 30% of HP. So this is a guaranteed heal right here. And it can actually stack with... his passive here, if his passive goes off, starts at a 40% chance for 30% more healing. That's pretty good. Easy way to keep him up early. And then also, another one you're going to get passive crit increase chance by 10%. And when damage is dealt, 50% chance to nullify enemy's passive skill for 2 turns. On critical hits, it is a 100% chance to nullify enemy's passive skills. That is so good, because you're going to nullify things like automatic regen, barb, you know, deals X amount more damage in water, just crazy passive skills that can be really good. So being able to just basically shut that down for 2 turns, that's pretty much a death nail for whatever you're fighting. So getting that as a starter class, that's really what sets apart the SSR heroes in this game. They get all the crazy stuff right at the beginning, and then they stack even harder as they go. Now when you upgrade them, you'll see on the tree above, you're going to be a swordsman. So this is the swordsman tree. Now, the skill that you're going to get from Swordsman is going to be attacks a single enemy 1.3 times damage before battle. 1.3 times damage, period. Now, before battle, dispels 3 enemy buffs and decreases their attack by 20% lasts a turn. That is super strong because not only you dispel any buff, so they got attack buff, int buff, whatever they got going on, just bam, gotta be gone. Most likely, most people you're fighting, at least maybe not in PvP, they're not gonna have more than 3 buffs. PvE. Deal a good amount of fixed damage, and then you're decreasing their attack as well, which is pretty awesome, and all that before battle, so you don't have to deal with that. I actually like the before battle stuff more than the after battle stuff, unless it's an after battle barb or something similar. Now the soldiers you're going to get, you're going to get an upgrade on the infantry troop, so damage taken decreased by 10%, so he's going to help you tank very well. If you really need Elwin to stay up, this is a troop for you. Now he also gets this maid troop, which I find pretty funny. But essentially, if their HP is above 80%, the attacks increase by 10%, so that means that he's going to heal a bigger amount when you're using skills such as the first skill he gets up here. Restore 30% of HP, of 30% of the damage you dealt, as well as his passive. So you can play around there depending on if you need... You're probably going to use the soldier more in the beginning just because he needs to be tankier to do things like dragon when you get to it, etc. But you'll probably use the maid after once you get his attack going because he just turns into a vampire fiend right there. But also one other reason to use the maid. Actually, I'm not 100% sure on this because I can't see it here. I'd have to see it in the game. But if the maid isn't considered infantry, then perhaps you're not going to take as much damage from horse troops. You could just roll the maid in real quick. Help tank a little bit more. You know, assuming that their stats are going to be the same because... Soldier starts off with more HP, but depending on if you're upgrading this trooper more, but they're probably both infantry, to be perfectly honest. Just something to look out for, just keep that in mind. Most people, they neglect their troops. Their troop, not only the upgrading of the troop, but the different troops you can take into combat to counter certain things, like archers with your holy units to counter more flyers, etc. Alright, and then finally, once you're done with that, you're going to come down here to the hero class. Now... this is where Elwin gets his faction buff. I'm going to show it to you. Active skill. Range, by the way, you're going to hear about range. Range for every faction buff that I've seen has been the full map, so you don't have to worry about that. Attack and defense increases significantly for all allies with Legion of Glory. When HP is above 80%, damage is increased by 15%. Now, what that's telling me is if attack and defense goes up, then that's your typical attack and defense buffs. I'm not sure. Significantly, you know, when I hear that, I'm thinking at least 30%. But I can't give you the percentage on that because it doesn't say it on the website here. But when HP is above 80%, you're also going to get a damage increase about 15% for Legion allies. So if Legion's one of your factions that you're building, this is clearly what you're going to want to go for on your Elwin here. Now, his other skill he gets here is a physical damage. This is an even harder version of the skill I showed you earlier. 1.8 times damage versus 1.3. And before battle, it dispels 5 buffs, not 3 buffs, but 5 buffs. So later on, when you diversify your Elwin and you're unlocking more of the classes and getting more of the skills, you're going to want this over the other one. Maybe at the very beginning, you'll take a double dispel for some reason. I don't know if there's some crazy boss in the game that might buff himself every turn. But also, the enemy cannot be healed, and this version cannot be dispelled. So that's what makes it even stronger. Be a really good PvP buff, raid boss buff, etc. Unless the raid boss is immune, which could be. And then your soldiers you're just going to get basically heavier versions of the infantry. So now that when you initiate combat, your soldiers' attack increases 10%. But if you're attacked, your soldiers' defense increases 10%. So, kind of... they get tankier when you're attacked, they get stronger when you yourself attack. So that's pretty good. You also have an option down here to get some Lancers, which is pretty awesome because that's going to help counter your weakness, which is going to be the horse units. When soldiers' HP is below 70%, the attack is increased by 15%. So these guys are helping you with your attack as well. So if you're leveling up your Lancers like you should be, I mean, you should honestly be leveling all your troops, but your Lancers like you should be, this is going to increase significantly your staying power against horse units. So, and that's the basic build that most people are going to do. Now, there are a couple other builds. This one, I'll just go into it real quick. You see the horse, it kind of branches off to itself right now. Perhaps it'll get buffed in the future, like we're seeing with the new patch. So, certain characters Sophia and Lance are getting extra trees. But for now, this is all we got, so... You got the Cavalry, I don't even know. It turns them into a Cavalry unit, the Highlander. Your skill here, to me, it's not that impressive, but maybe late game, it actually probably would be pretty impressive, even on the Soldier version of Elwin. HP ratio is above enemies, so if you have 99% health, the enemy has 92% health, etc. Your attack is increased by 12% when entering battle. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but eventually, when the gear swapping goes on in this game, somewhere in the realm of 35 to 40, maybe 45 at the latest, we're going to switch from flat skills are the most important, because we're all lower level, to percentage skills are the most important. So what I mean by that is attack +1 when you're rerolling your enchants, which I'll go into later, versus attack 1%. At the beginning of the game, attack, say, +3 is better than attack 3%, because 3% of 7 is... 2.1 attack per se, that type of thing. But later on, when we start getting access to faction buffs, and then better gear, and then you got the higher tier skill stuff that increases attack percentages, and higher tier buffs, etc., then the percentages are going to start to overwhelm the flat stats, so you're going to be wanting to go percentages. Not sure exactly when that's going to take precedent, but it's getting closer to most of us, because most of us are in our 30s, high 20s now. But overall, I wouldn't really recommend turning him into a horse unit, even if you don't have a good horse unit, because it's just not worth it, in my opinion. His troopers, if you do go horse for whatever reason, you got your horse trooper. And then also, you got a griffin that'll help you tank lancers a little bit better, but they're weaker to archers, so not recommended in my opinion, but if you did it, hey, let me know if there's some secretly OP build. Maybe once you get all the other skills that we went over, you could turn them into a crazy horse unit with mobility. That would be pretty cool, but... Anyway, so we're going to get into the other build now. Now, the other build eventually goes down to the Grand Marshal. We've already gone over the base skills, so I expect you guys remember the lifesteal, instant lifesteal skill here, and then extra crit. Also with nullifying passive skills, which is what everyone's going to have. So... we're going to go down now to the Swordsman skill. So, or excuse me, not Swordsman, the General skill. General's actually down here. So General, I wonder, does that take you... I'm not sure if that actually turns you to another class. I guess we'll check it out here. Because it's kind of looking like you become a Lancer, but you might also stay a Soldier. Apologies, I don't have them in the game to actually look for myself. If someone wants to clarify in the comments, let me know. So, basically, you're going to get this skill here. Before battle, 50% chance to reduce the enemy's defense by 20. Super good skill. That would be good for him and his infantry as well, because reducing defense, that means you're hitting harder. Hitting harder, not only you killing the troops, you have a chance to restore life harder with whatever's going on, and that's passive too, so you don't even have to activate it. 50% chance just flat out. Pretty good. Now, his troopers, he's going to get more Lancers here. When attacked, damage dealt increased by 10. So you're probably going to be attacked by high mobility horse units all the time. So that's just going to help take them out faster. When attacking, crit is increased by 10 by this little warrior trooper here. So critting, etc. You're hitting harder. You're healing more. Really good. Now we're going to get into the Grand Marshal. Now this one was kind of interesting when I was looking at it earlier. Now we'll get into his skills first. He actually gets himself a barb. So, passive, when attacked with a melee attack and forced into battle, troop HP is above 50%. This triggers after battle, deals fixed damage to once to the enemy, 2.5 times hero defense, which is higher than most units I've seen with Barb, actually, that 2.5 times hero's defense. Now, most of you are going to be thinking, well, yeah, but most of the other stuff you would be working on with Elwin, you're not really focusing his defense. Well, the devs thought of that. So, what this does, physical damage, attacks a single enemy, dealing 1.7 times damage. Buff received before battle adds 20% of attack to defense. And deactivates passive skills last 2 turns. So... I've actually been confused about one thing in this game. When you see the skills that they tell you that it does certain things and it says deactivates passive skills, I'm hoping that that means deactivates passive skills or active skills or whatever on the enemy. I believe that's what that means, but then it's a buff as well. So then that kind of makes me think that it deactivates the passive skills on the hero. But either way, though, you get that extra 20% attack to defense, and then assuming that Barb can still go off because that's a passive skill. That would basically turn him into kind of a mini, you know, like Grenier gets Barb eventually later. Just like, he doesn't himself have a protect, but anytime he's getting focused, he's going to deal that extra damage after combat, which can be pretty good. So, but it's defense-based, so you'd have to go more defensive with this character. So there's nothing with his passives or anything that really stacks with that. But so overall, the recommended tree, it's going to be the fighter tree down to the swordsman, down to the hero, and then eventually you want to go unlock all the other skills. Do that at your leisure. So right now, I'm going to bring up the game menu and we'll go into enchants as well as here. We'll do enchants first because that's just quicker. So enchants, what I would recommend, based off of his passive of him doing more damage, or excuse me, healing the harder he hits, and just doing more damage in general, I am actually going to recommend as the base one Meteor, because you get 5% more chance to crit, do more damage, and then when attacking with troops above 80%, all damage dealt after entering battle is 20%. So just super strong to help keep him up, and he's life stealing the whole time. Now, if you want to be a little bit tankier, you can go with things like Full Moon, Rough Sea, Breeze, etc. Full Moon right here, when HP is above 80%, attack and defense stats are increased by 10%. Not a bad thing, especially if you're going for that Grand Marshal. This one would actually be pretty good for that. Let me see. Breeze, like I said, damage deal increased by 10%. After attacking, 30% chance to increase mobility by 2 turns. So you could actually turn Elwin into a little bit of a stalker. Equip him with one of those weapons that reduces mobility, and you could manage to chase down for the most part, unless there's terrain in the way, even flyers and horse units. So that would actually be pretty strong. But stuff like that, you know, just whatever you guys are building more for. If you want more defensive, maybe you want something like Ice, you want more offensive, go with something like Meteor, in my opinion. So now we'll go over to the gear. Equipment. I actually have a little guide now, so this part of the video should actually be easier. So we're going to look at Frostwind first of all. Now let me get the filter off. Frostwind, the weapon. Right here. Attack plus 2% when initiating combat, 25% chance to reduce the enemy's mobility by 2 turns. That's what I was just talking about with the mobility. If you go with that one enchant that gives you the extra mobility. Reduce mobility, enemy's mobility by 2 blocks after battle, last 1 turn. So this could be really good for a chase down. You can also go Dragon Slayer. Dragon Slayer is the one right after. Dragon Slayer Graham. Attack and HP 1.5%. When battling against dragons, attack, defense, and magic defense is increased by 10%. So this would help them not only against dragons, but just in general, mostly against dragons, but just in general, your stats are pretty good. You want HP, you want attack on your units that are going to be in the thick of things. And then we also got Wind Cutter. Wind Cutter's actually up here. Oh, oops, this one. So, attack plus 2% when initiating combat after battle grants a 25% chance to reduce the enemy's defense by 20% last 1 turn. Now, he does have a skill that will do this before battle, but it doesn't always go off, and likewise this one doesn't always go off, so you want a chance whenever you can to get defense down, just so he can hit harder the next time, or if that unit's going to attack him again, he's going to hit him harder, regen more life if the life regen procs, etc. So those are the weapons recommendations. Now armor, we're going to go to 2-4 to get Bloodline Magic Armor. This is actually really good for him in my opinion. HP and defense plus 1. When attacked with a melee attack, 10% chance to decrease damage taken in this battle by 30%. So anyone that attacks you with melee, horse units, maybe an assassin, you know, other infantry, etc., lancers, it's going to take 30% less damage as long as this procs. Now, as you upgrade this, you can actually upgrade this and get this even higher percentages, etc. But that's going to start off. That'll be ridiculous if that procs, so that'd be pretty good. Now, we're also... the other one. Oh, I guess this was the main armor I was actually recommending. So we're done with that. Let's go over to helmet. Now helmet, we're going to do the vamp mask. Got here your infantry units. Defense +2. After taking action, 25% chance to decrease defense by 20% for one enemy within 2 blocks. Lasts a turn. It seems like the music might be a bit low. I had someone complain about the music in yesterday's video. Like, well, you never heard a piano before? Alright, now we're going to go over to accessories. So there's a couple accessories. Always the Thor necklace. Attack +1%. Before initiating combat, 25% chance to deal fixed damage to one enemy. One-time hero's attack. Well, if you've been building the recommended stuff, your attack should be pretty good. So that'll be nice. Not only to do the damage, but to have that many less troops to tank for the hero unit that you're hopefully going to kill at the end of that combat. Now, also a pretty good one, the Overlord badge. And apparently I didn't mark this properly. There we go. So all stats +1%. Immune to defense and M defense down. Attack and int down. And mobility down. So this one right here, this is just to make sure that your Elwin can operate as efficiently as possible. So immune to most of those buffs that are going to affect his stats. Also mobility down, because you don't want your Elwin, because it's an infantry troop, so he already has, you know, at max usually 4 to 5 mobility. So you don't want someone to come along and gimp him by 2 mobility with a skill, and then your Elwin has very limited options on either chase down or getting away if he needs to get away for whatever reason. And there's all types of, just because I don't recommend gear, guys, it doesn't mean that there isn't all types of builds and stuff you can do. This is just the things that stick out to me personally, as far as how I personally want to build him. And feel free to suggest whatever you guys are doing with your Elwins or want to do with your Elwins. You guys that are actually playing. And that's pretty much it for this guide, guys. This hero, super good, keeps himself up, hits pretty hard. He's got his strengths, got some weaknesses. He's got a buff for Legion, so if you're trying to build him, good luck to you. This is actually a really good hero in my opinion. Wish I had one. I've been pulling really hard on the Bernhardt banner. Bernhardt's going to be my next video. And then I'm going to try to hit some of the SR characters. Maybe some of the healers as well, though it's really hard to go wrong with the healers. But this was my first time trying to use the wiki, guys. So let me know. I know it's not as good as the in-game UI, etc. But I do what I can, so just the way I wanted to get this video out to you guys for a while. Try to get another one out tonight, and then maybe some more after that. I got to go to bed in about 5 hours here, so I'll catch you guys later on. And I guess I'll do my promo, huh? Yo, I'm Showtimedr, Showtimedr. You found my YouTube. Hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Also, check the title info. Click show more if you don't see it. There's a link to the wiki for one, if you want to see this. There's also going to be a link to my Discord, my Twitch. Playing this game a lot in my Twitch. Discord, we got tab. Come in, talk, ask questions, show off, do whatever you want. Enjoy yourself. And I will catch you guys later on, so peace out.